I expressed to my husband that he is hindering my progress, and now he is departing from my life. I believed I was merely expressing my truth. It appears that I was acting with a certain disregard for caution. Now, I find myself in contemplation, questioning whether I have indeed let slip away the finest companion I may ever encounter. My name is Emily, and at 32 years old, I find myself reflecting on how this seemingly minor disagreement spiraled into something much larger. It began with a detail so minute, it feels almost shameful to admit. I've been immersed in this new marketing role for several months now, and for the first time, I find myself earning more than my husband, James, who is 35. Not just a little more, but significantly more. I'm entering stores without even glancing at the price tags, more and more. I'm placing my order for appetizers, entrees, and desserts with unwavering confidence. And hear me out, I have truly earned this. After countless hours of diligent effort, late nights spent poring over courses, and months of sending out resumes, I truly believed I had earned the right to indulge myself. Whether you label it as main character energy or something else entirely, I sensed that I had truly arrived. James, however, held a different perspective. The initial fracture occurred over a trivial matter. I purchased a bag for $400. It wasn't anything extravagant or high-end, just a lovely bag that brought me a sense of joy. Upon returning home with it, I anticipated James might utter something along the lines of, "Ooh, that's lovely," or perhaps, "You deserve it, darling." Instead, he confronted me with the question, "How much was that?" That question grates on my nerves like nails scraping against a chalkboard. It frustrates me when men pose that question, it evokes the sensation of being a child reprimanded. I merely rolled my eyes and replied, "No need to fret, I covered it with my own funds." It was evident that it displeased him. His face remained largely still, yet his eyes engaged in that subtle squint smile that individuals often display when they're on the verge of losing their composure. He inquired, "Your money?" I believed it was our money. "Are you aware that I remain the one covering all the expenses, correct?" And that was the moment everything took a turn for the worse. Instead of allowing it to fade away, as I likely ought to have, I chose to utter something clever. What once struck me as amusing now resonates as perhaps the most foolish remark I've ever uttered. I fixed my gaze on him and replied, "Perhaps if you earned more, I wouldn't need to dip into my own funds." Indeed, I did express that. To a man who rises at the break of dawn, at 5:30 a.m., to dedicate himself to 10-hour shifts each day. To a man who has been shouldering the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, all while I navigated the uncertainty of employment before this marketing opportunity finally materialized. And I didn't merely express it, I conveyed it with a playful chuckle, as if it were endearing. It lacked charm. The subtle change in his expression told me all I needed to know, I had made a mistake. His silence was more piercing than any retort could have been, deepening the sting of the moment. He fixed his gaze on me for a moment, nodded, and said, "All right, Emily, I understand your position now." He turned and strolled away. Though I can't say I'm proud of it, rather than succumbing to guilt, I found myself consumed by anger. "So, now you're going to retreat into silence, nursing those hurt feelings, are you?" In my mind, I ponder the notion of stepping up and embodying strength. I perched on the couch, arms crossed, anticipating his return for a debate that never came. As the night deepened, I found myself lost in the glow of my phone, scrolling aimlessly until slumber finally claimed me. As dawn broke, I stirred from my slumber only to find that James had already slipped away. There's nothing out of the ordinary, he consistently departs for work at the crack of dawn. As I entered the kitchen, my gaze fell upon a sticky note affixed to the fridge, bearing the message, "I'm taking $300 from our savings for the car maintenance. I wanted to inform you, as I seem to be the sole contributor at this point." Trivial, oh so trivial. I crumpled it up and cast it into the trash, yet that one lingered with me. It struck at a point I was unprepared to acknowledge as painful. The following week unfolded with a series of subtle barbs like that. Whenever I ordered takeout, he would inquire, "Did you cover that with your money or ours?" As we wandered through the aisles of the grocery store, my hand instinctively moved toward the familiar name brand cereal, while his fingers brushed against the more humble store brand option. I remarked, "Darling, really, it's just a $2 difference." He remarked, "Well, now that you're wealthy, perhaps you ought to take care of it." It reached a point where, one evening, I found myself messaging my closest friend Sophia, saying, "Girl, James has been quite emotional lately. It seems to me that he harbors feelings of jealousy towards me." I anticipated her to uplift my spirits, yet her response was, "Sis, are you certain you're not being a tad selfish?" I began to compose an entire paragraph, poised to articulate my defense, yet ultimately chose to erase it. For beneath the surface, I sensed there was a sliver of truth in her words, perhaps just a touch. Yet, to acknowledge that truth seemed akin to surrender, and I found myself unprepared for such a concession. Then arrived the moment that transformed everything. As we cruised along the road, the car hummed softly, carrying us away from his mother's house. The entire journey was enveloped in silence until he suddenly asked, "Do you believe I'm hindering you, Emily?" I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. What prompts him to inquire about this? He averted his gaze, fixated solely on the winding path ahead. I shrugged and replied, "Well, I didn't exactly say that, but you sort of are." At that moment, it barely registered in my mind. It escaped his lips, yet he remained silent for the remainder of the journey. There were no clever retorts, no understated barbs, only an enveloping quiet. As the night deepened, he carefully assembled an overnight bag. I assumed he was heading to his brother's place as he had in the past during our arguments, but when I noticed him picking up his work shoes and laptop bag, a wave of anxiety washed over me. "Where are you going?" I inquired. "Somewhere I won't feel as though I'm a burden to you," he said, locking his gaze onto mine, and then he walked away. I lingered in silence, refraining from reaching out to him. I believed he would return, he has a way of always finding his way back. Yet here we are, 3 days later. There have been no calls, no texts, he isn't at his brother's residence. His sister mentioned that he is seeking some distance to sort through his thoughts. And that was the moment it struck me, he's truly gone. For the first time, I find myself contemplating whether I have been my own worst enemy. I expressed to him that he was hindering my progress, yet now it seems as though he is the one who is abandoning me. 6 days have passed, and still, James has not returned home. Initially, I must admit, I was quite obstinate. I resolved that if he chooses to behave like a child, then so be it. I had no intention of pleading. I navigated through TikTok, cranked up some empowering playlists, and reassured Sophia, "Girl, he'll return, he's merely being dramatic." Yet with each passing day, my confidence waned just a bit further. By the 3rd day, I found myself tracking his whereabouts on Find My iPhone, but can you believe it? He switched it off. And if you understand, you grasp the kind of message that conveys. I found myself on the brink of panic, though I wasn't quite prepared to succumb to it just yet. On the 4th day, I reached out to his brother Ethan. "Greetings, Ty. Have you happened upon James lately?" Ethan hesitated, as if weighing the extent of his revelations. Then he remarked, "He's good, Emily." "What is the significance of that?" I inquired, my tone more cutting than I had meant it to be. "It signifies that he possesses skill. He will reach out to you when the time is right." I ended the call. My hands trembled. Ethan's calm demeanor unsettled me, as if he possessed knowledge that eluded my grasp. As the 5th day unfolded, my eating habits had taken a turn for the worse. The food lacked flavor, and my stomach felt constricted, as if bracing for unwelcome tidings. I found myself staring at the door, convinced it would swing open at any moment, yet it remained steadfastly closed. I found myself wandering the kitchen, phone clutched tightly, caught in a tug-of-war over the decision to send him a message. I even typed, "Are you truly finished with us?" However, I chose to remove it. It exuded an air of desperation. I refused to grant him the satisfaction of believing I cared that deeply. Then, day 6 struck me with the force of a brick. That morning, I was stirred from slumber by the chime of an email notification from our shared bank account. I blinked away the remnants of sleep, propped myself up, and pressed on the message. The message indicated that the account transfer was successful, with $6,500 now moved to the new account ending in 891. My heart plummeted into the depths of my stomach. I opened the banking app to assess my remaining balance. $322.07. He departed, leaving me with $300. That was the moment it ceased to feel like a reprieve and began to resonate with the sting of abandonment. I sat there, gazing at the screen, blinking as if I had misinterpreted what I saw. He had been setting aside that money for us, or so I believed. Whenever I indulged in small purchases, be it clothes, candles, or takeout, he would remind me, "Don't touch the savings, Linz. This is designated for urgent situations." Yet, it seems he concluded that this was his moment of crisis. This time, I reached out to him. I had relinquished any concern for pride. The phone rang twice before it was whisked away to voicemail. I reached out once more and encountered the same response. I remained seated, my jaw tight, fingers gripping the phone as if it were a source of elusive truths. Is he really ignoring me now? Having navigated the tumult of our shared experiences, I slipped on my shoes and took hold of my keys. I refused to remain here, looking like a simpleton. I was certain of his whereabouts. I made my way directly to the residence of his sister, Charlotte. I neither called nor texted. I arrived as if it were my own home. His car sat in the driveway, and that was all the confirmation I required. I simply walked in without a knock. I pressed the doorbell 4 consecutive times. Charlotte opened the door, her appearance a blend of slumber and comfort, adorned in a bonnet and robe. She narrowed her eyes at me. What is it that you desire, Emily? What is it that you want from me, Charlotte? Is James present? I attempted to gaze beyond her, yet she positioned herself directly in my path. He doesn't wish to see you at this moment, sister. Hey, sis? Dear sister? A chuckle escaped my lips. I found myself disinterested in the soothing presence of a big sister vibe. Invite him to step outside, Charlotte. I refused to engage in that, Emily. Her gaze was unwavering, devoid of any flinch, as if she had grown accustomed to the challenges posed by obstinate individuals. Are you really going to conceal him in there as if he were a small child? I elevate my voice at this moment. Inform your brother that he should join us out here, or I will be entering the premises myself. Her visage turned frigid. As you cross the threshold of my abode, we shall discover what fate has in store for you. The door closed with a definitive thud. I remained rooted to the spot, seething with anger, engulfed in embarrassment, and overwhelmed by humiliation. It is a profound experience to find oneself on the periphery of one's own marriage. Tears threatened to spill, yet I held them at bay. I had no intention of shedding tears on this woman's porch. It's simply not going to occur. I slid into my car, fingers clutching the steering wheel with a tension that sent a jolt of pain through my hands. I couldn't bring myself to drive away just yet, my pride holding me back. There I remained, eyes fixed on the house, anticipating his sudden emergence. He did not. Instead, I received a text from Charlotte. It's time to relax. You both require some distance. Cosmos, this man has depleted our savings, and I'm expected to remain calm? No, I had moved beyond chill. I was seething with rage. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay in bed, revisiting each trivial remark I had ever uttered to him. If you earned a greater income, perhaps it would be a matter of doing more. Every clever quip I once found amusing lost its charm. The thought of it made me feel unwell. I revisited his location, and it remained unchanged. It was then that I stumbled upon a photograph shared by his cousin Ryan on Facebook. A gathering of them lingered at a sports bar, their smiles betraying a facade of sweetness. There he stood, James, grinning widely with a drink in hand, exuding an air of unbothered ease that I had never witnessed before. Free of worry. No need to worry, only tranquility. My chest constricted as if I had taken a blow to the gut. The app was closed with a decisive tap. That was something I could have done without. Just as I was on the verge of setting my phone aside, a message from him appeared. I sprang upright with such suddenness that a wave of dizziness washed over me. James, I plan to swing by this weekend to collect the remainder of my belongings. I will send a message before I arrive. I gazed at it for an entire minute. My heart raced within me as if I were plummeting through the air. What about the remainder of his belongings? What is he referring to? Is this truly the end? I replied with a message. Are you truly going through with this? No reply. Silence reigns. I noticed the small read receipt appear, but that was all there was to it. It was beyond my comprehension. This was a man who, in a moment of tenderness, once rubbed my back when fatigue rendered me incapable of preparing a meal. A man who stood beside me during the loss of my first job, my husband. But now, he's treating me as if I'm merely a fleeting memory from his past. As Saturday morning dawned, a weight settled in my chest, casting a shadow over the day ahead. It transcended mere sadness. It was a profound, suffocating regret that constricted the very air in my lungs. Today was the day I had been anticipating. James was on his way to retrieve his belongings. I endeavored to persuade myself that all was well. He's merely putting on a facade. I reassured myself as I folded the laundry, pretending that everything was perfectly normal, yet deep down, I knew I wasn't fine. Each passing car had me peering out the window, much like a loyal dog anticipating its owner's return. At approximately 2 p.m., it reached my ears. The soft click of the key turning in the lock echoed through the stillness. Once, it was a sound that wrapped around me like a warm embrace. At this moment, it seemed as though everything was drawing to a close. I lingered in the hallway, my heart racing within my chest, attempting to maintain an air of nonchalance as I strolled past. He entered the room, barely casting a glance in my direction, and made his way directly to the bedroom. He wore gray sweats and a hoodie, his expression unmistakably conveying a sense of finality. "Are you truly going through with this?" I remarked, resting against the wall with my arms folded. My voice emerged with a tremor I hadn't anticipated. He remained silent, continuing his stride toward the closet, seemingly unfazed. "So, you're choosing silence over conversation now?" I inquired, propelling myself away from the wall and trailing behind him. "Are you really going to just pack up as if I were a stranger? What is it that you wish for me to express, Emily?" He murmured, pulling hangers from the rod, as if he were eager to escape my presence. "Perhaps you might consider that you are overreacting?" I retorted. "Is it truly all this chaos stemming from a single disagreement? Please, James, let's approach this with the seriousness it deserves." He paused for a moment. His head tilted, as if he couldn't fathom that I was still feigning ignorance. He emitted a brief, humorless chuckle before returning to his task of packing. "Do you believe this revolves around a single disagreement?" he declared, cramming his garments into a duffel bag. "Are you truly that unaware? Uninformed?" I echoed, drawing nearer. "I am not without understanding, James. I refuse to plead for your presence over something trivial." He paused in his packing and turned to confront me, his gaze piercing straight into my eyes. His eyes lacked the familiar softness I had come to expect. They were frigid, as if he had already reached a conclusion. "It's not foolish when I'm shouldering the weight of this entire house, Emily." His voice remained unwavering, yet I could detect a subtle sharpness beneath the surface. "It's not foolish when each month I find myself at this table, grappling with how to make everything fit, while you're out there purchasing things as if we have money to spare. Oh, are you upset because I treated myself to a few things?" I chuckled, though the sound trembled as it escaped my lips. "I toiled, James. I had earned the right to indulge myself. I refuse to simply linger and count my coins as you do. And observe the outcome of that choice." He snapped, gesturing broadly to the surroundings. "I was setting aside resources for the two of us, Emily. For the home, for unforeseen circumstances. Yet, that perspective seems to elude you, doesn't it?" With a resigned shake of his head, he returned to the task of packing. I clenched my arms closer, attempting to feign indifference to the impact of his words, yet they struck deep, they truly did. He was correct, yet I found myself unprepared to acknowledge it. "Do you realize something? Very well. Depart, then," I declared, my voice rising in intensity. "Do you truly believe you are flawless? Feel free to take your sense of responsibility elsewhere." Without a hint of hesitation, he swiftly zipped up the duffel, seized it, and effortlessly tossed it over his shoulder. He strolled by, his shoulder grazing my arm as if I were nothing more than a fleeting shadow. "Is that really all there is to it?" I shouted after him. "Are you really not going to stand up for us? What is there to fight for?" He whirled at the front door, his expression contorted in astonishment. "Why should I fight for someone who views me as a mere joke? He said that I was a hindrance to you, Emily. Are you being restrained? Do you understand the way that resonates with a man? Do you understand the impact that had on me?" I parted my lips to utter a word, yet silence enveloped me. It wasn't until he echoed the words that I truly grasped their severity. "I thought we were building something," he said, his voice softer now, as if the weight of his words had begun to wear him down. "It appears he was merely biding his time until he could surpass me." With a gentle push, he swung the door open. In that moment, the realization struck me. He is truly departing. This is not a moment for cooling off. This isn't one of those disputes where he returns later with snacks, and we settle back on the couch as if nothing ever transpired. This was genuine. My pride shattered. I dashed to the door as if my very existence hinged upon that moment. "Hold on, James, hold on." I seized his arm, and for the very first time, I found myself not striving to prevail in the debate. I endeavored to capture his heart. "Please," I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. "I apologize, all right? I did not intend for it to come across that way." Frustration coursed through me. "You are well aware of the way I become when anger takes hold of me." He cast his gaze upon my hand resting on his arm, yet he made no move to withdraw. I didn't mean it, James, I repeated, my voice trembling with emotion. I had ceased to make an effort to be strong. I acted foolishly. I didn't mean any of it, please. For a fleeting moment, I believed I had him in my grasp. His face softened ever so slightly, and I truly believe that if I could have embraced him a bit more tightly, he would have lingered a while longer. Yet, he let out a heavy sigh. It was not a sigh born of anger. It was the last breath of resignation. The action taken by those who have already released you from their grasp. I understand you didn't intend any harm, Emily, he said gently, as if attempting to show compassion in that moment, but I'm weary of waiting for you to come to a realization. He removed my hand from his arm with a gentle touch, not out of anger, but as if he had reached his conclusion. James, I implored, my voice fracturing into pieces. I kindly ask you to refrain from this action. Our past is overwhelmingly vast. Indeed, he remarked, locking his gaze with mine, yet history doesn't settle debts. He then made his exit. I lingered at the threshold, tears cascading down my cheeks, my hands extended as if I could reach through the barrier and pull him back to me. It seemed as though my entire existence had been turned on its head. I brushed my face with my sleeve, wandering through the living room as if I might awaken from this entire ordeal. I reached for my phone and dialed his number. Silence lingered. I dialed his number once more. I sent him a message, but there was no response. Please return to me. I deeply regret it, truly I do. It was not my intention. Read at 4:47 p.m., no response received. I found myself on the couch, gazing blankly at the wall, the remnants of tears still clinging to my cheeks. It was my hope that the act of apologizing would bring me some relief, yet I found myself unchanged. Apologizing is one matter. It becomes a different matter entirely when indifference takes hold. I gazed at the television, yet my mind remained elsewhere. I found myself seated, reflecting on each and every instance where I might have improved my actions. Each polished remark, each self-serving action. He was indeed correct. I was so engrossed in indulging myself that I failed to notice what he was attempting to create for us. He endeavored to exercise patience with me. He attempted to lead me, yet rather than heeding his advice, I asserted that he was hindering my progress. Now, he is departing, leaving me in his wake. It has been a week steeped in silence, with me lingering in stillness, gazing at the door, yearning for the moment he might step through it. With each buzz of my phone, I startle, only to find it's yet another trivial notification, perhaps a sale that holds no interest, or a message from a long-lost friend, yet still no word from James. In those days, I found myself revisiting each memory, scrutinizing every shared moment and pondering the choices I made. Have I gone too far with him? Was I truly that self-centered? I attempted to reach him several times. I reached out to him, expressed my remorse, even offered another apology for the unspoken words, yet he remained silent. At last, on the 5th day, a message arrived, though it was not from James. Instead, it came from his sister. It was brief. James is currently residing with me. He has ceased his efforts to salvage the situation. And just like that, it's complete. I set my phone aside and gazed at it, wishing I could convince myself that my eyes were deceiving me. Alas, they were not, and a wave of nausea washed over me. It felt as though a tidal wave of realization crashed over me all at once. He had reached his limit in the effort to salvage our connection, and the most painful realization was that I had no justification for my feelings of resentment. I had distanced myself from him, and now he was lost to me. The following days passed in a haze, filled with conversations with friends who insisted I should have been more aware, friends who remarked, "You can't expect a man to remain by your side indefinitely if you treat him that way." I understood their truth, yet the pain remained unchanged. I believed I had the power to mend it. I believed that a mere apology could bridge the chasm between us, restoring the past to its former glory, yet I was mistaken. I was utterly mistaken. My children inquired about him. His absence was felt deeply, and truthfully, I felt it too. James had woven himself into the fabric of their lives for nearly 5 years. He transcended the role of a mere husband. He embodied the essence of a father to them. At this moment, my only recourse was to articulate the notion that, at times, individuals drift away from one another. Yet, how does one convey this truth when they themselves were the architect of that distance? The following week, I made my way to his sister's home to collect a few of his belongings. She opened the door, yet her gaze revealed all the truths I sought. She held no anger towards me. Her heart was heavy with disappointment. I collected his belongings, steering clear of the expression on her face. I stepped outside, burdened by the weight of my past mistakes. Upon returning home, I settled in with the bag of his belongings, reflecting on how I had allowed something precious to slip away from me. James was indeed correct. It wasn't until the moment had passed that I realized I should have taken him seriously. I failed to recognize the extent of his contributions to us, as I was too consumed by my own thoughts, too engrossed in the illusion that I had everything under control. Yet, I refrained. My mistake led to his absence, and now he is no longer here. I had been reflecting on it extensively, considering how swiftly I cast blame upon him, how readily I distanced myself due to my inability to cope with another's expectations of me, and perhaps he was indeed correct. Perhaps I was restraining myself from acknowledging the truth, that all the desires I harbored could have been within my reach had I only been more attuned to them. Uncertainty looms over what comes next. I'm uncertain if he will ever return. A fragment of my heart yearns for his return, yet a more substantial part understands that some fractures may be beyond repair. Should James ever come across these words, should he ever learn that I even entertained the notion of offering an apology after everything that has transpired, perhaps then it will all become clear. Perhaps he will recognize that my comprehension was lacking back then, yet I grasp it fully now. Yet, if he chooses not to, perhaps that is for the greater good. He is worthy of someone far greater than I, and that is a truth I must carry with me.